It's the day after the 1st of October. Of course, that means it's the second day of October in in the year 2025. I beg your pardon. This is freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. The Smooth Breakfast is in full flow as per the usual. This is where we get to take a look at the papers, the headlines across the national dailies that have us wondering and, of course, talking as well. Welcome into a Thursday installment of the show. My name is Ayokunmi Kekiriako, and you get to join us as per the usual. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, share your feelings on the issues. Let it all out. Send those messages in on WhatsApp. Join us on YouTube as well. The WhatsApp number is 0911 999 0981. 0911 999 0981. You can also join the live stream on YouTube. You can get on the live stream as well. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Leave your comments in the chat box there. We always look forward to hearing from you. That is guaranteed. All right, joining me this morning to take a look at the stories, give analysis, and of course, let us know where exactly it is we're going to. Mr. C is in the building. Mr. C, good morning to you.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Lagos.
I should say happy post Independence Day to you. After Independence Day yesterday, there's still a lot of talk over events happening yesterday, and also is part of what forms our stories or part of the stories for this morning. And we'll be talking about the president's address to the nation and just take a look at some of the things that were said. So this is coming from the Premium Times, where President Bola Tinubu has declared that Nigeria has turned the corner on its economic and social challenges, assuring citizens that the sacrifices of the past 2 years were beginning to yield measurable results. I actually like that, measurable results. Looking at where we are right now, Mr. C, have the results been fully measurable?
I'm not sure about that, Aya. So, frank disclosure, I didn't listen to the speech. I read the official transcript. And it was interesting to note that there were a number of bold claims made by this administration. Now, when he says these gains can be measured by who precisely? So let's take from the economic perspective. He referred to recent data from the NBS showing an increase in the nation's GDP for the second quarter. Inflation has gone down for the past 5 months, according to the data. Then also showing that the naira has sort of stabilized. Now, these are all nice declarations and statements from the administration, but this statement should be capable of being verified independently. Now,
Okay.
we keep hearing that he says we've turned the corner and that the worst is behind us. According to who? In the same speech, he referred to concerns about the rising cost of living. If we have turned the corner, how is the cost of living still going up? The two statements cannot be correct. One statement must be wrong. If you have turned the corner, it means, and that the worst is behind us, it means the good days have started coming in. And we should start to witness that in a number of areas. So, if the good days have started coming in, we'll start to notice marginal decreases in the prices and costs of various goods and services, and including foodstuffs. That hasn't happened. Now, the case of Nigeria is akin to a musical artist who releases, who goes in to record a song, right? Now, to his mind, the song is the best thing that happened since sliced bread. However, it is the audience that will determine whether the song is good or not what the musical artist tells us. It's the same thing with the football team. The fans who watch the game know whether the team played well or not. It's not the coach of the team that will come and tell us, oh, the team played very well. The fans can make their independent assessment. At this point in time, can Nigerians truly say we have turned the corner, that the worst is behind us? I don't know what information he's seen. I don't know what material he's looking at. And maybe he's looking at things from the macroeconomic level. That's fine. From the microeconomic level, what has changed? Is the cost of business a lot easier? Are people finding it easier to survive on a daily basis? There was a recent study, the average cost of renting a two-bedroom anywhere in Nigeria is 2.5 million. Is that a suggestion or an indicator or proof that things are getting better? He also claimed in his speech that his security guys are winning the war on insecurity and the war against corruption. Now, with regards to the former, winning the war against insecurity, is it the same insecurity that they're winning that we're watching? Are we with? Is he watching another war? Because if you look at the news for this year alone, almost every day there's some illegal and lawful activity. Now, when he says they're winning the war, is he also incorporating these so-called peace agreements with non-state terrorist actors as part of the winning? So what exactly does he mean by we're winning? Now, he says there's a war against corruption. That's news to me. I didn't know we were fighting corruption. Because in Brazil, he said corruption had ended. Those were statements. So if corruption had ended as at the time you went for that trip, what war are you fighting now? He says healthcare has gotten a lot better, that Nigeria now has some of the best facilities. Very interesting. We have some of the best facilities, but you travel abroad. There's no record of you using any of these facilities. There's no record of your top guys using any of these facilities. So it begs the question, in the midst of the shortage of qualified medical personnel we have, who are the spirits manning these wonderful facilities and where are they located? He made reference to the fact that for the first time in about 4 decades or more, Nigeria now locally refines crude oil. I was ashamed for his administration because surely he cannot be referring to the efforts of a private refinery as part of achievement. There are 4 state-owned refineries. They're not working. You didn't address anything concerning them. And you are the substantive minister for petroleum. Nothing was said about those refineries, whether they will ever work again, whether there's a timeline. Then we go to savings from subsidy removal. Now,
Right.
it is my understanding that these savings are on a monthly basis. However, we've never gotten figures. In his speech, he said trillions have been freed up from the removal of subsidy to apply to social programs and infrastructure. Now, I have a challenge with that comment. My first challenge is social programs. By social programs, I want to understand is that these handouts he's been given all over the place.
The conditional cash transfers.
Correct. Now, if that is the case, and you funded the social programs from the subsidy removal gains, then why did you have to apply for an $800 million bank loan, World Bank loan, to finance the same project? That's question number one. So the infrastructure that he says the subsidy removal gains were also used to fund, don't they have names? Don't they have locations? Because I know for a fact the Lagos Calabar Coastal Project got funding from the African Development Bank and some other international finance organizations. So again, what is the true picture? And if you say part of the subsidy removal gains were used to fund it, how much? What are the details? Now, every quarter there's a budget report that needs to be published in accordance with Section 30 of the Fiscal Act. That hasn't happened since the third quarter of 2024. What that means is there's no report for the final quarter of 2024. There are no reports for the first half of this year. And each report should be published not later than 30 days after the end of the quarter. So the Q3 report is not yet due. Now, in the absence of those documents, how are innocent or independent Nigerians able to really track real time what the government is saying? So we have no idea of what the government spent first half of this year, outside of what they tell us. So when you look at all of this, I want to choose to see his speech as something to be achieved, not what has been achieved. Yes, the naira appears to be stable for now. Political season will soon start. Then we'll see whether it still remains stable. But above all, the changes they keep referring to at the macro level, at some point, it has to start reflecting in the lives
Mm,
of the ordinary Nigerians. I found it also very instructive. He made no mention about how many jobs he had created, because that was one of the key things he campaigned on. He would create jobs. He referred to the student loan scheme and said, yes. Now, I have reservations about that scheme because honestly, you're just plunging people into debt. Because the idea is when they finish school, they start to repay the debt, or when they start business. The truth of the matter is, how many people get jobs after they finish school? What type of jobs is these? Even the businesses, how many businesses can really cope with the drama and stress that is Nigeria today? He said that work was advancing on the Badagry Sokoto Highway because Calabar Coastal Highway. Work is advancing is very vague. It's completely ambiguous. What is the percentage of work done? We need percentages, we need milestones so that it's easier to measure. So a lot of the achievements can't be measured in a quantifiable manner. So here we are at 65, trudging along. I'm not sure where we're trudging to. He says the worst is behind us. I wish that were true. I wish I could tell Nigerians today that that is true, or that I agree with that. What if the worst is not behind us? What if they've gotten it wrong? We haven't had a proper census in in almost 20 years. He made no mention about that. He also did not speak about electoral reforms, which are very key. I thought he would have used yesterday as a critical moment to address key issues and reiterate his commitment towards addressing them. But it appears he has different commitments, different ideas, and it's tough. It's really, really tough.
well, as you said, it's tough, but I want to believe that it will and it should get better in one way, shape, or form. And one of the things you actually talked about is the medical sector, and I'm actually glad you brought that up because there is a story here that kind of alludes to that. We talked about the medical sector yesterday concerning the plans in order to train at least 20,000 doctors in a year, which is, of course, it's a future plan. But in the present, this story talks about this coming from the Punch actually, and the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NARD) on Wednesday decried the country's poor doctor-to-patient ratio of one doctor to 9,083 Nigerians, describing it as far from global best practice. This seems to be beyond far from. This is a mile away from global best practice, and you just begin to wonder, looking at the way that we lose our doctors, our medical professionals on a regular basis. It doesn't seem like this particular number is going to get any better anytime soon. But what does this mean for the average Nigerian out there when there's one doctor to 9,000 Nigerians?
Okay, thank you. So to answer your question, it leads to doctor burnout, an increase in avoidable mistakes made by the doctor. It leads to you then have a large number of potential patients who never get to see a doctor. It leads to doctors either collapsing, and in some regrettable instances, they actually pass on. Now, according to the Minister for Health, Nigeria has lost about 16,000 doctors in the past 5 to 7 years alone. Now, the current ratio is one doctor to about 9,083 people. And according to the Association of National Resident Doctors, we have about 11,000 members in the country currently. Now, of that 11,000, not all of them are in public hospitals. We need to stress that. A good number of them are in private hospitals. So when you go to the government hospitals, it's a very interesting sight. I read an article, I think 10 or 14 days ago, where some people were giving accounts of the expenses of the government hospitals that they get there as early as 6:37, and maybe by 2:30, 3:30, they haven't seen a doctor because there's a long queue. Now, the outcome of their meeting is that from the 1st of October, which was yesterday, no doctor will be on call for more than 24 hours, no matter what the circumstances.
Right.
Now, they're doing that to protect the lives and the mental and emotional well-being of the doctors. Because if your doctor now falls sick, if more doctors fall sick, who's going to treat who? Now, I hear the government wants to increase the capacity by 20,000.
Right.
But let us remember one thing. We must not dilute or weaken standards just because we want a number in. And to study medicine, you have to be very proficient in chemistry, physics, and biology. Those are not easy feats for secondary level students. Now, that's one. Two, when you say you want 20,000, you want to churn out 20,000 people annually, that means you have to increase the quotas of all the medical schools across the country. Now, if you increase their quotas, are you also going to ensure there's a corresponding increase in the equipment and facilities available to them? Because if the corresponding equipment and facilities, right, can only cater to about 200, 200, 250, right? And then you then say each school should produce 1,000. What was sufficient for 200 or 250 will now be grossly insufficient for 1,000.
Hmm.
And given the current state of that sector, where the salaries on hand on display now are not encouraging compared to what they could get if they go outside, what is the guarantee that, what is the plan for retaining this magical 20,000 number, a majority of them when they graduate? Because you cannot insist that a Nigerian who's gone to med school, gone through the rigors of medical school training, when he finishes, should stay in Nigeria.
I think one of the bigger questions for me is let's even assume that this 20,000 plan actually comes to fruition. Of course, you have 20,000 new doctors being the key word here. How do we ensure that the doctors who are already here, who are established, who are experienced, at least we can still have them here, at least pending when the 20,000 doctors are going to even get to that point where we can say, okay, these are experienced hands.
So you have to offer them National Assembly type of salaries and allowances. That's the only way it's going to happen. Coupled with proper funding of the various hospitals and clinics. Because you can't do one without the other. You shouldn't do one without the other. But if we believe that we can continue to pay peanuts and expect them to stay, then the joke's truly on us.
Hmm.
Think about it. With all due respect to the National Assembly, some of them there are truly faffing around. They're not doing anything. But every month, they're well paid. Both the ones who work very hard and the ones who faff around, there's no discrimination or there's no distinction. So why will a doctor who is responsible for actually saving lives be paid peanuts? And then even the peanuts do not come when they should come. But for the faffers in the National Assembly, there's no delay. There's never a delay. So again, it goes back to the eternal question. What is the value of a Nigerian life? What is the value we place on certain professions like teachers, like doctors, nurses? What value do we place on them? Even our law enforcement guys, the rank and file of the police, how much are they paid? Someone puts in the work for 35 years. At the end of the day, when it's time to go, how much is he paid? Until we get our priorities right, I struggle to see how we're going to make substantial or real progress.
Well, looking at the fact that these are areas that are very, very critical, no matter how you look at it. Why exactly is it that we find it difficult to put these things on the front burner? Now, looking at what's going on with doctors, medical professionals, ASU, and so on and so forth, these have been recurring over the years, and these are areas that are super critical to national development. Why do we find it so difficult to put those particular issues at the top of the list of these are things that we need to source, these are things that we need to focus our energies on? Why do we find it so difficult to do that?
So first of all, I think we need to define the term your term we. Who constitutes we? Because what it is when you consistently have the wrong people in positions and corridors of power, you will continue to have these same results. Like I said on Monday, if you don't know what the issue is, you have no understanding of the issue, you cannot come up with a solution. It's impossible. So first of all is the fact that you are even aware there's an issue to be solved. Then you have an understanding of how to solve it. Then you proceed to the solution. Our leaders are paying lip service to the issue of healthcare because they can travel outside the country. If that option was not available and the people outside were actually rejecting them from seeking healthcare abroad, was they not fix the situation here? So because you know you have options and you'll be like, this will never happen to me, or Nigeria will not happen to me. That's where we are. What is critical for them is vehicles sorting themselves out, allowances, and regrettably, it's at all levels. There's a local government in the Northeast, one northeastern state. The wives of local government chairmen bundle themselves with the governor's wife to a country in Asia that straddles Europe and Asia on a seminar on how to assist their husbands in their performances in the LG. Truly abominable, truly ridiculous, truly insults our collective intelligence. But when you go through all the levels of government, it's the same rot. They pay lip service to what is actually key. And again, you have debates, people don't show up. And then you're surprised at the output after they get into office. Why? Why are you surprised?
Let me take a message or two here before we move on to the next story. Excuse me. This is Fabian from Ekwe who says, good morning, everyone. My concerns regarding the president's speech were his comparing things to 1960, his silence on petroleum, healthcare, and specifics regarding insecurity. I lost the patient due to the unavailability of emergency drugs, which some years ago could be gotten easily from a pharmacy. That's enough to demotivate anyone. How are the present healthcare staff actually encouraged to stay? Right? I mean, that's Fabian speaking from a medical professional point of view. At least Fabian is even still here with us. I
For
wonder.
now.
I was going to say, I wonder if he has any plans to, make a move. But anyways, that is his reality. This one is from Michael. Michael says, you have to wonder if critical thinking is actually painful for this government. Giving loans should be a complete package. Why not also ensure beneficiaries after graduation will get employment in sectors where you lack human capacity? They pay back and also get employed. This ensures value, growth, and development for both government and students alike. All right, keep your thoughts coming in on WhatsApp on 0981. Okay, Mr. C, let's step into the daily post here because this one was an interesting one when I was reading it, and this kind of speaks to a recent issue talking about state creation and all that. Now, economist and managing director of financial derivatives company Limited, Bismarck Rawadi, has said that Nigeria cannot sustain 36 states at present. Now, he made this statement on Wednesday while responding to questions in an interview on Channels Television. Now, he argued that Nigeria spends excessively on administration, stating that it's unviable.
Ayo, what he's saying is the gospel truth. How many states today without FAC allocation are solvent? Less than 6, right? So He's not saying anything new. This is not a new discovery like Isaac Newton, Isaac Newton's law of gravity. He's not saying anything new. Now the question is, where do we go from here? Because when with each stage you have multiple layers of waste, the cost of administration is ridiculous. There's a local government in the northwest where the local government chairman appointed more than 50 special assistants. Local government chairman. And then we have agitations from all quarters that more states should be created. People don't truly realize the rut in which we find ourselves today. For each state, you have a state house of assembly. You have a speaker, you have a deputy. So you're buying cars for all of them. Let's even assume that 20, 21, 22. That's 22 vehicles. Then you have to find quarters for them to live, as if they were homeless before they contested. Right? You have to furnish offices for them. That's one arm of government.
Mm.
Then you then have the governor, you have the deputy governor, you have a state cabinet, then they all have aides and assistants. It trickles down. So you can see the burden on the government at all levels. Now, should we go back to the regional system of governance we had in the 60s? Maybe. Because even though it may have worked at that point in time, is it pertinent or is it sufficient for our needs today? Only time will tell. But what is clear is the way we run the states now, we copied the model from America, but we didn't get this waste from them. We added the waste ourselves. The cost of administering governance at any level should not be excessive. Because think about it. If Nigeria was a company, the shareholders of a company would always complain when they notice company operational expenses continue to rise. And they will question what is informing the rise and give clear mandates to the management team to reduce the operational cost. Now, in Nigeria, the shareholders are the everyday citizens. Now, why are costs going up? There are certain line items that we're aware of that they spend money on. The other line items we're not aware of, money is also spent. So take the frequent trips of Mr. President. The only month he's not the only 2 months he has not traveled in this year. March, October just started. This is the second day of October. I cannot categorically tell you with any form of confidence he will not travel out this month. I can't tell you that. So where are we? What do we really want? And that's why I say Nigeria is not a serious country. The people are simply not serious. Because it gets to a point, it should now be enough is enough. We need electoral reforms. A lot of people are being quiet about it. They want a few people to shout themselves hoarse and then see what comes out of it. We need the constitution to be reviewed and a new constitution drawn up as quickly as possible. But again, it's left to a few people. For how long will the majority delegate the task of collectively doing stuff to the minority? So I agree completely with Mr. Riwani. 36 states is way too much. How we're going to get around it, only the good Lord can tell us.
It remains to be seen. All right, let me take your messages. A couple of lined up already. This is Shemodiase in Surulere, who says, Mr. C is spot on with the doctors. A healthier nation leads to a stronger workforce. I am still here with Fabian, comrade. Shion, thank you for,
For now. Shion is still here for now.
Until the phone number changes, right?
Yeah.
All right. This is Olalekan O in Lagos, who says, Dear Mr. C, firstly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with student loans. The only problem is that there is free tuition. There's free tuition. Introduce tuition and give them loans. And secondly, doctors need to pay the full cost of education to justify the salary Mr. C is proposing. I'm sure if they pay the full cost, they can justify increase in salaries. Input equals output. I have children in private universities and I know how much I pay for their education.
Okay, so Mr. Olalekan, thank you for your comments, and I'm glad and grateful that you are able to pay for your children's school fees in private universities. I am not aware there's a subsidy on education. I'm not aware. And if you are, please provide the details. As what I know as I speak is that when students in public universities are given fees to pay, they pay. It's not their fault that if they're hidden costs, those costs are not transmitted to them. Now, when you say that doctors have to pay the full cost of education, what is the full cost of education?
I think where he's coming from is the fact that compared to Nigeria, compared to other countries pay a higher cost for medical education compared to Nigeria. I think that's what he's trying to say here.
Okay, so if they have to pay the full cost, right? So what is the real cost? So now we need to know what the full cost is with regards to Nigeria, assuming that we're not paying the full cost, because you cannot just export a cost from another country without looking at all the other variables that informed that cost. Because the living conditions in any other country are different from the living conditions in Nigeria. The socioeconomic conditions also differ. So we must look at everything in totality. You can't take an item and look at it in isolation. Now, he says the student loan scheme is good. It is good provided they can repay the loan at the end. Look at America, where we borrowed the concept from. There are people who have left school 2 decades, 3 decades after, they're still struggling to repay the loans they took. So that is a very real consequence. What if they are unable to repay those loans? Then what?
These are the questions. All right, I need to rush through the remaining messages here. This is Eunice in Surulere. Good morning, crew. These oversights and ineptitude by the current leadership were the things we feared would happen when President Tinubu became the president. The sad truth is Nigeria has no data because no census means no data. He cannot mention jobs he gave because palliative monies and rice is, is all the government knows how to do. I agree with you on all the points you raised. If we don't know how many we are, how do we know how much we need or what we need to fix things? Nigerians have developed the attitude of not asking questions, and the government shrouded in secrecy. Healthcare, education, and the lives of Nigerians are not the president's priority. 2023 to 2031 is shy of a decade. There will be no growth because growth is not by chance, it's by intelligent work. Gilbert Musa in Festac says on the president's speech on student loans, let us ask ourselves what happened to the once vibrant bursary schemes for medical students and tertiary institution students alike, and the transport allowance for students in unity schools. The scheme collapsed towards the end of the 1980s. All right, Gilbert, thank you as always for the historical context there. Kenny says, our leaders at various levels of government in Nigeria always pay lip service to basic essential services such as education and the medical issues without much progress achieved. But when the elites get sick or their children want to go to school, they move abroad for the services while they neglect theirs unattended to. But the masses suffer it all. All right. Chiodesa says, if you pay a higher cost for medical school, then you have fewer medical students to actually train. That's a bigger problem. Ajay Oloniluwa says, good morning. State creation is not based solely on the economic viability, but in fact, more on political stability. If economic viability were to be the sole determinant, many countries in the world will not exist. All right. And Emeka says, I stop comparing education cost in functional countries with dysfunctional ones like ours.
Okay.
I'm not the one who compared. I'm not stating what has been said previously about both.
Let me leave a parting thought, right? You have a government that is hell bent on reforming what they describe as repentant Boko Haram members. And that cost will be borne by taxpayers. But for Nigerian students who need an education to make better lives for themselves and by extension the country, you want them to borrow the money to do that. Food for thought. The Boko Haram guys are getting it free. It's not a loan. They're not repaying anything. And it is questionable or debatable whether they will add any value back to the Nigerian economy. But for Nigerian students, the next generation or next two generations, you're insistent they borrow money. You can't give them the money for free. But you can give people who were determined to take lives and property money for free. That's my parting thought.
And on that note, we need to wrap it up on the show. Thank you all so much for the messages. Always great to read from you every single morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve, as well, for joining me in the studio on Freshly Pressed, as per the usual. Once again, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, Lagos, it has been quite an interesting morning. Thank you all once again for being part of Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. The Smooth Breakfast, of course, it continues at 8:15, you know, on a Thursday. It's all about entertainment as we step into the grapevine. Don't go anywhere.
The headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis.